Hey, everybody, and welcome back to ASH-PHALT, a podcast all about life on the road. I'm your host, Ash Taylor, and today I am absolutely thrilled to have a very, very special guest, Dr. Pamela Arnell. When I say this lady is a true hero, I mean she is literally a hero. Her job is to go out into the world and heal our heroes. She is the president and the CEO of 220.org, and she's here with us today to share all about her mission, her story, and I am so looking forward just to diving into this conversation. So let's get it on down the road. Dr. Arnell, hello, how are you?
Hello, and thank you for having me on today.
Thank you for taking the time to come and talk with us. I know you're a very busy lady. You were just talking about you got your kids and your grandkids and all that. So I know you do a lot of very important work as well.
Yes, thank you so much. I do. I think that the big thing for me is so many people ask, what is your title? And I don't need a title. At the end of the day, all I want to do is make sure that our veterans and, active duty members, but our first responders are healed who have trauma. And that's what, that means the most to me. Yes, I was the executive director for 2 years. I got connected through my fire chief. Well, he's retired now, my fire chief, who introduced me to 220 to go through the training.
Yeah.
And then in February this year, the board said, hey, we're going to make you the president, CEO. And I just looked at them and said, I don't have to have that. That's not, just let me go and take care of our heroes and get them healed from trauma.
Yeah. Well, Chris, my husband, and I have been blessed to be friends with you now for a couple of years. And I can tell you right now, they picked the right person to be in charge of it because your heart is just in the right place. And we love you and your heart. And like I said, you guys are in for a treat this episode. Dr. Arnell is awesome. So
thank you.
Yeah. Well, to start things out, for people who may not, who maybe don't know you and about 220, can you share a little bit more about what it is you guys actually do at 220?
Sure, absolutely. So 220, for those that especially, who are listening or in the military, we know that on average, they're saying 22 veterans die a day by suicide. 220 started 7 years ago. It's a program that is fully remote, but also a peer program. So anyone that has trauma that is in the armed forces, and that will be any branch, anytime served, deployed or not. Yes, we do recognize the National Guard. Not all nonprofits recognize the National Guard, but we do. And then first responders and Gold Star families are all covered at no cost. So basically, if someone has trauma or has some negative emotions related to some events that were problematic for them, they just need to reach out to us. It's, like I said, fully remote. So you're at home. You don't have to go anywhere. And we do not report to the VA. And if you're an employer, such as a first responder, we're not going to report to your employer either. It's 100% confidential. And it's based off of the trauma resiliency protocol and the emotions management process. It's not what we call traditional talk therapy. It's basically guided imagery would be a good way to put that, but it's non-invasive, it's non-clinical, and you work with peers that are also either veterans or first responders.
That is so incredible. And I love that you're saying they don't have to leave their home, right? That's so crazy just to not be able to leave your safe space, to stay here. That is great. So what inspired you to get into this type of work? Share a little bit about your story and kind of what made you want to do this for a living.
So, it's kind of funny. When I got connected to 220, and I'm going to put it this way first, then I'm going to go back a little bit. But
sure.
So my past fire chief is the one who connected me to 220 to go through the training. I've been in the volunteer fire department since 2008. I'm an auxiliary member now, but he wanted me to go through the training, which I did, and that was in April of 2021. And I knew, I guess the best way to put it, I knew that there needed to be some research done. Mm-hmm. Yes, I have that clinical background, but also, being a first responder and then a spouse for over 20 years. My husband was a veteran. So saying that, I've always known that there was a greater purpose, and my greater purpose is always serving and protecting, people just in general. And so whenever I had been asked to start coming on, prior leadership started asking me to come on, um, in an administrative role, leadership role. I kind of wouldn't do it. I kept saying no because at that time I was the youth service officer for my county. And so that basically meant my job was to serve and protect the kids and make sure that they were safe and okay. And so I wouldn't do that. Well, finally, I just kept saying, I got to pray about it. And for about 10 months, that's what I would say. I got to pray about it. Got to pray about it. And then at one point when they called, I said, I got to pray about that. It was almost like God just said, look, how many times do you got to pray about it? And I said, oh, gosh. Okay. So I kind of caved, and that was in 2021. In 2022. And so at the beginning of the year. And then I ended up becoming the executive director in 2022. So saying that, I actually grew up in a family with serving and protecting was, very prominent. So my dad was in law enforcement. So I grew up a blue kid. Then I had a lot of uncles that were veterans who had served, overseas. Well, then I met my late husband, and he and I actually met when he had just gotten out of Desert Storm. So he had just come back from being deployed, and then it just put a different level on there, being around your uncles that you could remember were different when they come back, but yet you didn't see them every day like it is when you're married to a veteran. And so I've always just known that in some capacity of whatever it is God has me doing, I'm going to be serving and protecting those individuals he sets me out to do.
Yes, amen to that. It's an incredible calling, and I just have to say, Chris and I, my husband, are so happy to be 220 ambassadors and just share what it is you guys do. We've also got to meet some of the people that you have been helping heal, and I mean, it's incredible the work that you do. Like I said, I was really giddy when you. When you agreed to come on the podcast. I'm like, this is going to be so great. Because, I think more and more people, and, please tell me if you agree or disagree, but I think more and more people are maybe kind of becoming more aware of mental health in general. But sometimes I think our heroes, our first responders, our veterans have been pushed to the side. And so I like that now maybe it's becoming more popular to talk about and maybe address and raise awareness. Would you agree that you kind of see it coming up more?
I do. I definitely agree with you on that. And I think, one of the things is that, and I'll use the veterans as an example. So 7 years ago, the data suggests that there were 22 veterans that die a day by suicide. Well, there continues to be that number, and then higher, actually. So when you're doing something and it's not working, and just as a whole, so this could be for the veterans and first responders, but when you're doing something and it's not working, and we're still losing our veterans or active duty members and our first responders to suicide every year, there's a problem. And at some point, there needs to be that conversation to say, what's going on? What are we doing? Where are we missing the boat? Where are we not progressing? Because it's still the same. And actually, a lot of people don't know this, but so when they're talking about those data numbers, especially on the 22 with the veterans, side of it, that's primarily for male veterans. That really doesn't include the female veterans. That's also not an accurate number, because that doesn't include those who died of an overdose, that that died by suicide as a result of overdose. So there's a lot of variables that takes into consideration when you're looking at data, because not all of the variables are the same consistently. Everybody's, I think about in more of the rural areas, when you've got the medical examiner that comes out and you've got, you know, that rural area connection where everybody knows everybody, and they're not going to get that life insurance policy, and then they talk to the medical examiner, and then it may be put as undetermined. So if it's undetermined, it's not going to be listed as suicide, and that's not giving us accurate data. But I can understand why the medical examiner would do that.
Yeah, and honestly, what a great point to bring up. I mean, I've been aware of what the number 22 kind of represents and all that. I never thought about all of those little things, and honestly, that breaks my heart though. So thank you for sharing that and bringing that up. One thing I really admire about you is that you travel everywhere. I sometimes have a hard time keeping up with you on social media. It's kind of like, there's like, where's Waldo? And it's kind of like, where's Dr. Arnell? Like where is she? So can you share with us? I mean, clearly, here on ASH-PHALT, we're all about life on the road. And truthfully, I mean, you are a road warrior. So can you share some of the places that you have gotten to travel to, in your work, and some of the things you got to go be a part of, and just places you've been to, sharing this mission?
Sure. Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. I have been to Florida several times,
Okay.
different areas of Florida. And oh my gosh, Maryland. Have been to Boston. I have been to Texas. I have been to New Jersey. I have been to, oh my gosh, Alabama, which I live in Tennessee. So, And I
Yeah.
have to say, it's funny. Every time I travel, it's so funny because, especially when I'm traveling up north, apparently they cannot understand me, but I don't know why. And so I'm like, really, truly, it's okay. I, this is how I talk. And, they keep accusing me of having an accent. No, I don't. No, I don't. But in Louisiana, I just got back, it was last year. I was in Louisiana, and the guy that picked me up for the Uber from the airport, he was actually retired law enforcement. And so if you know anyone in the New Orleans, area, they have, I call an accent. And so he was talking, and I couldn't understand a word that man was saying. And finally I finally understood when he said South, and I went, South. Yes, I'm from the South. Said I'm from Tennessee. But let's see. I've been to, oh my gosh, there are just,
So many places, right?
oh yes, so many places. And I think some of the things, and even DC. So this year we were actually at the Capitol. We were up on the Hill, meeting with some of the advocates, and meeting with, some of the delegates in DC about suicide prevention and
Mm.
holistic approaches and stuff like that. In the future. So I'm home now, but in August I'll be leaving again. I'll be going to, let's see, I'll be in Florida. I'm going to go to New York first. I'll be up there for the Navy SEAL events, and then I will be coming back to go to Florida. And then after that, I will be in California and Los Angeles for it's what we call a veteran summit. So I'll be a part of that as well. And then I had a meeting the other day and have been asked to possibly go back to DC and present at another event in DC. So that's something that's probably going to be coming up as well.
Wow, that's so incredible. Like I said, I love following you on social media and seeing all the places though that you go, and it's like you're just advocating and you're, educate. I mean, it's just so cool, I think, to just see you do that. So is there maybe a certain place out of all those, that you've been? I know there's so many. Is there a place though, like a visit, that really just sticks out in your mind, where you just walked away and you were like so empowered and just kind of reminded of like, being here, seeing these people, like, this is what I do, but this is why I do everything?
Oh, well, I can't say that there's particularly one. And the reason
Mm-hmm.
I say that is because every time that I go somewhere, there's always someone,
Mm-hmm.
that will come up and maybe struggling, and I'm working with them. And so I always am grateful that I have that ability to work with them right then and there. So, like when I go to events such as conferences, or if I'm presenting at a conference, or asked to come in and set up an exhibit booth somewhere, someone will always come up to me, at least one, usually a whole lot more, but there's always those that will come up and say, I'm really struggling. What do I have to do? And I'll just pull them to the side and say, hey, just walk with me. And so I'm going to take and work with them right then and there. And so each one of those is, to me, it's a blessing, because you're not only there for that veteran or first responder or their family, but you're also looking at it as that healing process to start healing that whole family. And so while we're working with them, there's going to be that change in the dynamic in the home and for the family. And imagine what that looks like when, for whatever amount of time that someone had been struggling, that they're not struggling anymore. And then all of a sudden they're, going out, they're doing things that they had given up hope on doing, and they're doing all of those things, and how impactful that is for that family, the whole dynamic within that family to be changed. I think if I can think of one particular location, before my husband passed away, like I said, he was deployed, he was in Desert Storm, but he actually went with me on a couple of events before that, he was diagnosed with cancer. And one of the events that he went with me on, and this was shortly after I had come on with 22-0, one of the prior leaders, Nick, had actually worked with him. So he would, no matter how hard I tried, he kept saying, no, you can't work with me. And I kept telling him, you're not going to tell me the content, but in his mind, he had to, protect me. And so when we were at that event, and I talked to Nick, and Nick pulled him to the side and worked with him. And so the last 2 years that he was living, he didn't have trauma.
Oh, that's amazing.
Stick with, that one, and it was in Florida, but stick with that one for sure, because I was able to see the change in him, from not sleeping to, tossing and turning and having the nightmares and stuff like that, to that night when he went to sleep. I mean, he slept, and he slept for a long time, and he did not get up until probably about 10 o'clock the next day. So, which was very out of the ordinary for him. And I think just knowing what I know now, that he was able to live that amount of time without having that trauma, I think that's probably going to be one of the best, if there's a best, I think that probably would be one of the best, or one of the most meaningful events for me. And so I had and after he got diagnosed, by that point, he was fully aware of what the mission was and what 22-0 was about. And he knew that I had 3 events that I was supposed to go to. And this is during that time period, whenever he was on palliative care. It was before he went into hospice. And he kept telling me, he said, you have to go. And I said, no, they're going to take care of those events. I'll be here, because I knew we were going into the hospice piece. And he said, no, you're going to go. And I told him, I said, I swear to you, if you die while I'm gone, I'm going to come back. I'm going to go up to the funeral home, and I'm going to tell Steve, which was our funeral director, good close friend, and I'm fixing to whip him. You better just go on and open it up and let me go in there, because I'm fixing to whip him. Because I said, do not leave that on me. And he said, no, I won't. And that was the only reason that I agreed to do those 3 events, is he had promised me that he would still be living when I got back.
Wow.
And he did, So every time that I go out, not just every time I go out, but anytime I'm talking with anyone, it's always, especially in the military, it's always been ingrained in me, you leave no one behind. And that's really a big focal point for the military, is you leave no one behind. And he would tell me, that's what you do. You go heal them, make sure you leave nobody behind. And even up until, right before he went into that deep sleep, the last thing that he told me was, I love you. and you have to promise me you will do everything to leave no one behind.
Mm.
That's the last thing he said.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have never cried on a podcast episode yet, but I might, because that's just such a beautiful story. What a incredible man he sounds like. I wanted to say too something I think that's really cool though that 220 does, and I love this. You focus, like you were saying, on the families, and I've gotten to talk with some folks, who have been through treatment and everything, and are associated with 220, and they've shared that. One person told me, they said that they became a dad again. Like going through and getting healed. It's like, and I guess I never thought about that aspect, but it's true. When we go through things that are traumatic, it clearly not only affects us, but those close to us, those around us. And so I love that you treat not just that, individual, but the family. And that does change the home life. And I'm like, wow, what a concept. And I love that you focus in on that, because I think that's the thing. You're giving people their mother, brother, father, daughter, back to them. And I think that's just so incredible how you do that. And I can tell though firsthand, I've seen people share their story with me and say, yeah, like I went through this treatment and now I'm a dad again. I'm a father again to my kids. My kids now love being around me. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry.
And but that goes back to what I was saying. Imagine the whole dynamic of that family changing, and basically that's what you're doing is you're, not only is that family healed, but they're able to learn and grow and be what that family should be without worrying and struggling and, dancing or stepping around toes or whatever. They're able to just really let go and be themselves. And that is huge, because for so long they were not able to do that. And technically, if you really think about it, they're really having to learn how to do that, because that's not what they're used to. So they have to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, great point. I wanted to ask you too. I would love for you to share a little bit about the work you're doing with the Tennessee National Guard here at home. Please share about that, because I think that is cool. I hear veterans and first responders a lot, clearly, but I guess we don't really think of the National Guard very much. So I would love for you to shed some light and tell us about what you're doing with them.
So, sure, yes. Well, for one thing, let me just say, so after my husband served 8 years in the Army, he rolled over to the Tennessee National Guard. Mm. So he was stationed at Joint Force Headquarters in Nashville off of Sicko Drive. And actually, I wasn't looking for it. It came to me. So what happened was, I'm connected with the governor's challenge for the military families and for our armed forces with suicide prevention in Tennessee. And in saying that, there's just been different opportunities that have been available or that came up where I was able to be of assistance. And one of those was being able to serve the National Guard in a support way. So not only just with 220, but outside of that. And we had a meeting, it was last week. I went and met with them. We kind of met halfway. They said, well, I'll just come all the way to Pulaski. I said, you don't have to come all the way to Pulaski. And so we met halfway and signed a letter. It's basically a statement of support that we will recognize, the Tennessee National Guard. If any of the Tennessee National Guard members want to go through the process, they're definitely able to go through the process even before doing the statement of support, but also being able to go to events and being part of those events and supporting the whole group that supports our Tennessee National Guard members. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is absolutely incredible. And wow, that's so awesome. So I wanted to ask a couple fun questions. So clearly we're all about life on the road. I want to know, what is your go-to gas station snack?
Chips.
Do you like Doritos? Are you like a Lay's potato chip? Does it depend on your mood?
It's the bold checks, the mixture. They have all kinds of different or like, oh my gosh, the pretzels, the little rye bread
Oh, like the
thing.
little Chex Mix.
The Chex Mix got
Yeah.
all those, and not the original. It's got to be bold, like
Oh,
boom. There we go.
I love that. I'm a huge bold Chex Mix fan as well. We eat it every Christmas. It's like a holiday thing in our house, but that's a good choice. What about drink wise when you're out on the road and you're like, oh, what's your go-to drink that just refreshes you?
Coca-Cola. Well, if I'm driving, Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Because I'm a Coca-Cola person and not Pepsi. It's really Coca-Cola, the real thing. And then so because kind of going back to something else to that is like if we're at events or whatever, everybody else say, oh, she must drink wine or something like that. No, give me Jack and Coke. No, I don't want any wine.
That's right.
Go straight to the Jack and Coke. And I can't tell you how many times people have been, being at these events and they'll go, but you're so small. Well, yeah, I'm 5'1.5" an inch. I get that. Like, you're just so little. You're going to really drink Jack and Coke? Yeah, yes. I don't live that far from Jack Daniel's distillery. Hello.
That's right. Listen, I've said for a long time you're a badass, and you just pointed out it's like Jack and Coke. She's cool,
Jack
man. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, I quit drinking a couple years ago for health reasons. Best thing I've ever done. But my drink back in the day was a Jack and Coke. Every gig I played, that is exactly what I had. It is the best.
It is the best.
It is really good. Really good. Who needs wine? It's too bougie. Too bougie.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I'll tell you something else that's funny is, some places they don't serve Coke, they serve Pepsi.
Mm.
And where was it? I think it was in Florida. Maybe I think it was an event in Florida. And I know the difference. I know when it's Coke and when it's Pepsi. And so I had ordered a Jack and Coke, and I took one sip of it, and I just went, no, you got to come back. Like, you just made Jack Daniels roll over in his grave. You don't do Jack and Pepsi. And so she comes over, and I said, do you not have Coke? She said, that's Coke. And I said, oh, no, honey, that is Pepsi. She said, well, it's a Coca-Cola. It's a cola. No, there is a distinct difference. Mm-hmm. There's Pepsi and then there's Coke. You don't mix Jack with Pepsi. You mix it with Coke.
Yep.
So
there are rules, people. There are rules. Yes.
There are rules. And she started laughing. She said, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's okay.
What about, are you a sweet tea drinker?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
There you go.
Not the sweet tea.
Yeah.
It's not sweet tea or Coca-Cola. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I think is so funny when you're traveling, especially like up north or something, you'll ask for sweet tea and they bring you just iced tea plain. And then they're like, well, there's sugar, on the table. You pour sugar packets in. It's like, no. That's not sweet tea.
That is not sweet tea. Yes. Yes. No. There is no, and I tell them, there is no way that you can take unsweet tea, add sugar or Splenda or whatever you're using to make it sweet. I said, that's just not normal. It doesn't work that way. So when I was up in Massachusetts a couple of months ago, and I asked the waiter, I said, I'm going to ask, but I'm sure you don't. Do you have sweet tea? And he said, oh, sure we do. He said, but it's a fruit tea. And I said, okay. And I said, is it sweet? And he said, oh, it is so, so sweet. I don't know that you'll be able to drink it. I said, that's what I want. And so he brings it to me. I about spit it out. It's not sweet. I just looked at him. I said, I thought you said it was sweet. He said, oh, that is so sweet. Can't you just take that? There's nothing. That is not sweet. Yeah. So go up north, forget it. You're not going to get sweet tea.
Yeah. Exactly. I know. It's such a thing we have here in the South, but it just, oh, it cracks me up. So I think it's funny because, I grew up in California, but my Nana was born and raised in the South. The only reason my family moved to California is because they worked in the orange fields and, picked oranges. And I mean, so it's like I come from a bunch of rednecks, right? So, but we're in California, and growing up though, my Nana would make sweet tea at the house. And that's what, if she drank that, or she was a Pepsi drinker, Diet Pepsi, but it was always Diet Pepsi, or she had her sweet tea, and it was a thing. So I grew up drinking it, and I just thought that was so normal. So when I moved here to the South, I'm like, oh, awesome. And then I would go, up north or travel to play a show. And I'd be like, do y'all have sweet tea? And they're like, and like you said, they serve me something. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, yeah. It's like, this is not sweet tea, people. Let's get on there.
It's a difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference. It's a big difference. So when you're traveling, going all over the place like you do, I'm curious, what's one thing that you don't leave home without?
Oh, golly. Oh, wow. It would probably, I would say my phone, but
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh. Oh, golly.
Yeah, the phone's a good one though. I mean, my life is on this cell phone right here.
Yeah.
I mean, like I can't do anything without it.
Because I'm trying to think. I mean, it's probably going to be my phone because everything is in that phone, like my appointments. Because if there's an appointment and it's not in my phone, it's not going to happen. So as soon as I have to schedule something, it goes right. I don't care what time, I don't care what day, I'm putting it right there in my phone. But that just seems so kind of lame. So
you can come up with a couple of things that are.
I usually take candy.
Okay.
Like just to snack on. If I'm in the room or whatever, I'll take a variety of stuff, usually chocolate, because I'm a peanut butter and chocolate person, and a Snickers. So Reese's peanut butter cups and Snickers are my thing, and so I'll take some of those because and I didn't until when I first started all this travel and stuff. I learned a lot after the first couple of trips. That they don't all have those kind of things accessible. And so I said, oh no, we can't be doing all that. So I go buy stuff and throw it in my suitcase.
That's good though. That's smart.
Because, there's times that when I'm at an event, I may not even eat until late that night. So if I'm busy and I'm working with somebody, that's my focus right then and there. And I may eat later that evening. And I'll tell you something else that I've learned at the very beginning of all this traveling. And now when my husband and I would go on vacation and stuff, I was really bad about it. And then it was funny because he saw how I went from carrying, the mid-size to large luggage because I had to put all kinds of clothes in there. I go, well, this outfit for this day, this outfit for that day. Well, wait a minute. No, I may do that outfit. Well, let me just throw them all in there. And so after 2 trips on my own, not like vacation with my husband, I said, screw this crap. So now I carry on. Like I got a carry-on bag. I said, oh no. I said, I'm not going to do that. So now I've gone from the mid to large luggage to actually just use a carry-on luggage. If you can't go in there, oh well. Too bad.
Some pretty solid advice.
Yes. So that, and then making sure, one of the other things that I do when I'm traveling is no matter where I go, I've already got Florida figured out. So my hair will actually, like, it gets really wiry looking. It gets really bad. It starts throwing, And so I will actually look at the weather to see how humid it's going to be, because that's going to determine if I'm going to wear nothing but my hair in a ponytail. Because no matter what I do, it's not going to stay flat. It just won't. And so that's another thing that I do is I'm going to check the weather just to kind of get an idea, especially when I'm doing events when it's cold, because I don't like cold weather at all. And I do not at all. And the older I get, the more I really don't like it. So I will check and make sure that I don't need to take some long johns with me or something because I am not going to freeze. It's not going to happen.
Oh, I think these are words of wisdom. Everyone should be taking notes right now on yeah. I always so Chris, my husband, has a joke with me. So you can always tell when the humidity is really high here in the South, or like if we're traveling and I'm playing a show, because that's when I wear a hat. So if you ever see me wear a hat, whether it's a cowboy hat or whether it's a baseball cap, it means humidity is real and it's just no controlling it. Yeah, ponytails are great in the summer.
Yep.
Yeah. I have little in my guitar bag. I actually have, those little packets that you can put that like warm up your hands in the winter that do
Yes.
that. Okay. I have played so many outdoor gigs in the dead of winter. You would not believe it. So I literally keep those in my bag. And so what I'll do is like if we're outside playing a show and it's real cold, I throw them in my pockets and then I put my hands in because you can't play guitar when your hands are that cold. I mean, you can't, but yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh my gosh. So what? Wow. See, here's my story, and I'm sticking
Okay.
to it. After the first time I went, so one trip I went to Wisconsin and it was
Mhm.
cold, but the wind there, like literally, I opened the door. I just went outside to do. I went outside, and as soon as I pushed that door, I mean, I thought that wind was going to drag me down the road, literally
Mhm.
that bad. And I said, anytime there's events in areas where it's cold,
Mhm.
those events should be in the summer because that keeps it from having to, really struggle and not bring back a bunch of good stuff because you got all these long johns packed up. so, so it's kind of hard to bring a whole bunch of stuff back to the grandkids because they expect Nana to bring something back every time, which that's Nana's fault. So it's all good.
Right.
But if you really think about it, why do those events outside in the winter? Because it just seems so cruel. Oh, it's so cruel.
For everybody. Ain't no one having a good time. Yeah.
Yes.
I do like Christmas tree lighting and different stuff. And and I actually played a couple times. I've done some stuff actually at military bases. Well, they'll bring me on and like do stuff for the tree. So listen, I will freeze my butt off for them. That is the least I can do. But I'm like, guys, we gotta heat this up. Move
Yes.
the Christmas celebration to July. That's what I'm talking about. I'll So, we talk about a little like when you're a performer, we have, of course, like, stage fright, like you can get nervous. You travel so many places and you talk to so many people, not only just one on one, but like publicly. Like you're talking about, oh, I go to DC and I'm gonna go over here. So, do you ever get like nervous when you're going in front of all of these big people and talking about all these stuff? Do you get like a little bit of stage fright?
Time. Every single time. Oh my gosh. And it's funny. So by nature, I'm an extrovert.
Mm,
No, there's no question about that whatsoever. But whenever I'm going and speaking, I think the nervous part is making sure that what I say
mm-hmm,
is what they need to hear to get them bought into whatever is
mm-hmm,
going on. So, for example, if it's to like say to a fire department, making sure that my information conveyed to them really is geared around the firefighters because they're going to really connect more with that compared to talking to the firefighters about, veterans. Does that make sense? Then if I'm with a vet,
totally.
yes. So keeping it in that line, but every single time, even when it's online, like there's a lot of times they'll ask me to come in and do a webinar online, and I'll do that
Mm-hmm.
nervous every time. And I'm going, oh my gosh. So before I start, I mean, I'm praying, I'm like, all right, God, just speak through me. And that's basically how I get through that. But it doesn't matter if I am speaking somewhere that I've spoken to even a month or 6 months before every single time it's I'm nervous, but it's because I want to make sure that I am displaying and telling them what they need to know in that moment.
Mm.
And I don't want to not to mess up an opportunity of being able to be there in that moment with them.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. Absolutely. You've talked a lot about, as we've been, having this wonderful conversation today, a lot about God and the Lord and praying and saying, hey, guide my steps, tell me what to do. Can you share a little bit about your faith and how that plays a role in your personal life, but then also in what it is you do with 22-0?
Absolutely. So it's kind of funny because I can laugh about it now. I didn't laugh about it when I was a kid, but so my parents divorced. Okay. So my dad, my stepmom were at a Methodist church. My mom and my stepdad were at a Baptist church, then went to more of a Pentecostal church. One set of grandparents were Presbyterian, and so on and so on. And so when you're when you're a kid, there's, to me, what I call rituals. What you're supposed to do here, you can't do there, and what you're doing here, definitely don't do it over here, kind of thing. And a kid kind of gets in trouble because you're like, you're just there. And so at one point I said, when I got older, I said, if that's what this is about, no, 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 no. And it took me a long time to realize that it's not about rituals. It's not about anything other than having that relationship. And so that is where my faith is, having that relationship. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. I screw up every day. But I also know in having that relationship, it's kind of like, for me, it's, my father. And so if I'm struggling, or if I am, upset, or even when I'm grieving and I'm going and, or if I'm thinking about my late husband or whatever it is, and I go to him, to me, it's like having that relationship where I can just go to him and just, all right, Dad, here's what's going on. I mean, I know you know what's going on, but I think I need to tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
I just want to help you out a little bit. Shouldn't do that, but we all do. And so that is what is very important to me, is with, my relationship with my faith, with God, and not the rituals, and not making sure you do this, but don't do that, and definitely do this. It's not about that. It's about having a one-on-one relationship.
Oh, I so love that, and thank you so much for sharing that. I could not agree more. Yeah, my personal belief, and if anyone listening doesn't agree, that's cool. But I had when I was 17, I had a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and it has changed everything. And even though this podcast is about music, life on the road, and all this stuff, it literally is in everything that we do. And that's the way that I think it should be. So I love that you shared that. And just, Dr. Arnell, you're just too cool. just too cool. No, that's awesome. So you clearly, go around like we're talking about. You bring awareness, you educate, you do so much great work. How do you, though, take care of your mental health when you are just, in the trenches? Just, you're always on the go, always on the move. Other people are coming to you and kind of sharing their trauma. How do you take care of your own self?
So with the process that we use with 22-0, the one thing about that is, it's not talk therapy. And so they're not allowed to talk about the content of the traumas. That protects them. That protects my peer coaches, because I'm pretty protective of them. And so, just like I am with my ambassadors.
Yeah.
But for me, every day, when I get up, and even when I go to bed at night, my whole focus is making sure that I've done everything that I was supposed to do that day that I knew God wanted me to do. And so, when I'm traveling, so right now, my mom lives with me. She'll be 84. I have a younger sister that lives with me. She's younger than I am, but she's also got Alzheimer's. So I, not only with the fact of working, but still being in that caregiver role now times two. with my mom and my sister. I know that no matter what I go through, I know that I can always pray and rely on God. And I really use my faith a lot. And I do mean a lot, because there's a lot of things that I deal with, or even like with the fire department, or when I was with the sheriff's department, as a reserve deputy for 5 years, there's a lot of things that I really just have to say, okay, God, I really just need to give that to you and let you take care of it, because I need to focus on whatever XYZ is. So taking time for me, I really don't. And I'm okay with that, because I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, because that's what God wants me doing.
Yeah.
So when I do like go out to eat with my girlfriends, I've got my girlfriends that I'll text or call them. They're like, hey, I need a Mexican night date. Like, need to go eat some Mexican food because my mama can't eat it. I need to go. We need to go to that restaurant. I can just text or call, and at any time they'll go. As far as venting, I really don't vent, because there's no reason to do that. Whatever is going on in that moment, I give that to God, and then I just have to walk away and let Him handle that, because He can handle it a whole lot better than I can. So,
Isn't that the truth right there?
yeah. So
that's some great advice for sure. I heard one time, I can't remember where it was now, but someone talked about when you essentially, vent or you complain, I think is a better word. You're complaining about something. You actually put a magnifying glass on it and you make it a lot bigger, because then you're giving time and energy to the situation. And when I heard about that, I went, I am never going to complain again, because I mean, it really did though. It stopped me in my tracks. So I love that you're talking about just giving it to God and moving on, right?
moving on. And then, one of the other things which I loved, anybody that knows me knows I love my son, I just love my son. And so, but he has given me an amazing daughter. His wife is just it. If I had to pick a daughter, I'd pick her, and it's funny because sometimes they'll say, you love her more than you do me. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. We'll have these little conversations. But when I always make sure that I take time, which now within a few weeks, it's not going to be that difficult anyways. But doing things with them and with the grandkids, so apparently I'm a cool nana.
I love that.
and so I'm like, that's good. Yay. But they'll say, hey, can I spend the night? Or like last weekend, my son and my daughter went to Kentucky just to get away for a little while. So I have grandkids. And so, just being, whatever I'm doing, being with them in that moment. Or if I am working with a veteran, I'm with them in that moment. So whatever it is that I'm doing, they're getting all of me, not bits and pieces. They're going to get all of me. And I do that with my son and my daughter-in-law and my grandkids.
I love that. It's just 100%, right? So great. So great. I wanted to ask a question for you. So for listeners who may be struggling, with trauma or like their own mental health, what would you say to encourage them today?
For one, you are not broken. Trauma is not a disorder. Trauma is an injury and it can heal. You are absolutely 100% worth it. There's so many times that I'll have veterans or first responders, when I'm working with them, they'll say, why do what you're doing and giving so much? And I tell them, because you're worth it. Every single one of you are worth it. You are worth it to have the healing. You are worth it to have a better life without the triggers and the trauma, and focus on the healing with you and your family. You're just worth it. For anyone that can put on a uniform be it military or be it as a first responder, they give more than what people realize, and we should be able to give just as more back to them.
Absolutely. That's really, really great advice. Thank you for sharing that. I have to say, I was opening my Facebook app the other day, and I got really jealous of you, Dr. Arnell. I saw that you got to hang out with one of my favorite country singers, Randy Travis.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny. So I was at the airport and I'm just like waiting because the flight was delayed, and I'm going, okay, any day down. And all of a sudden I see a wheelchair come up and I'm going, well, I'll be damned. That looks like Randy Travis. And so I looked and I said, I really think that's him. And then I noticed people going up and I said, okay, that really is him. So I went up and talked to him, which, he cannot talk verbally, but he understands what's being said. And so I went up and I talked to him. I talked to his wife. His wife had asked, what I do. And I asked if I lived or where I was going, or if I was going on vacation. And I told her, no, I was there for work. And, that I was going to a job event for veterans. And she said, oh, well, what do you do? And so we had a really good conversation for a while. And then, and Randy, he just so intently listened, and he was shaking his, and he just smiled and smiled. And I said, can I get a picture with you? And he's like, yeah. And I said, I'm the one over here going, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he was just so, humble to, if you take kind of what we were talking about with that complaining, instead of complaining about what you have or don't have, but taking and being grateful for what you do have, and be grateful for things that you weren't given that you wanted to have, and someone thought maybe you didn't need to have that. But just looking at him, he was so humble, and that just touched me. And so we talked, mostly his wife and I talked, but and I share with him because I love Randy Travis. And I told him, I said, I'd listened to some of your music after my husband passed away. And I said, I just want you to know that helped me. And so he really appreciated that. So not every time do I get to see somebody, to his caliber, but the times that I do, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, what a special moment, though. And I think that's one of the things I've personally have loved about life on the road, though, is that you have no idea who you're going to run into or meet. And sometimes it could be a celebrity like Randy Travis. I mean, that is incredible, but I also think about like just doing music and stuff. It also introduced me to people like yourself and, so many others. And you just don't know who you're going to meet and who's out there. It's one of the beautiful things about living life on the go.
Absolutely. And I'll give you another example to that. So
Sure.
a couple of trips ago, or 3 trips ago, however many trips ago, I was on the plane, and I can tell who's a veteran. Like, I just can tell. And the guy sitting next to me, he was a veteran, but it was almost like he had a flat affect. And of course, you know me, we're going to have to find out about that. And so, and I just looked at him, I started a conversation with him. And so basically, there's twice a year where him and some of his buddies will get together and go talk and reminisce and kind of have their time, that camaraderie. And so he said that he was, for this particular one, they were going to meet up, because there's also that element of them, memorializing their buddies that did come back home, but then later died by suicide. And I was talking with him, and I said, how much do you struggle with that? And he looked at me and he said, it bothers me every day. And I said, would you be okay with me running you through the process? And so I told him, about 22, I told him everything. And he's like, absolutely. And so after I got done, he just had this big, huge smile on his face. Like it was totally like, wow, And I said, can I get a picture? And he said, absolutely. And I said, you care if I put it on social media? He said, absolutely. And so, if the picture that's on there, if you saw him before that,
Mm-hmm.
you would have seen a very different person, a very different man that was really hurting and really struggling.
Yeah.
So you never
And
get to see.
no, but see, that right there is why I just love what you guys do at 220. It's why I love you, because it's like you're literally changing people's lives. And I mean, and that's really, I think, just something that is so crazy, especially the people that sacrifice so much. I mean, like, I get real fired up about it all the time, but like, this is why I love supporting 220. It's why I love being an ambassador. It's why I go play in military bases and do everything I can. I'm able to go do what I love to do for a living, whether that be write songs, play music, start a podcast, or do whatever, because someone gave that right to me, right? And it's like they have given us their all, and I know that they come back with so many issues and so much trauma, and it's like we have to help them. And so I love that you're actually out there just doing that, and healing our heroes. And I think that is just the best thing that we can do to give back to them for everything they've given us. So I just, like I said, I love you, Dr. Arnell. You're amazing. This has been such a great conversation. And again, just thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and share with us today. I think I have teared up. I have laughed. I've learned a lot. It's been so great having you. Before we go though, will you please talk to folks and tell them where they can go if they want to learn more about 220, maybe donate, get involved? Where can they go to find you and check you out?
Absolutely. So we are on social media. We're on Facebook. We're also on LinkedIn. And then the website is 22, the number 22, zero.org, 220.org. You're able to go to the website. We're actually have some under construction pages at this point, but the information that you need if you're listening and you're a veteran or first responder and you're struggling, the information that you need it is on there. And so you can, if you want to make a donation, it's a nonprofit, so you're going to get a donation letter for your tax purposes. If you really look at it, it takes $250 to work with a first responder and or a veteran.
Mm.
And so $250 is what it takes for one session. If you want to sponsor a veteran or first responder, you're able to do that. There's a donate link on the website. If you're struggling, the phone number that's on the website, the 800 number, that rings into my phone. So I know that some people ask, well, why does the 800 number ring into your phone? Well, because a lot of the times when they're calling in, they're in crisis. And so you're going to get me. And if you call and I'm at a meeting or I'm working with a veteran or first responder, leave a message. I promise you I will call you right back.
Mm-hmm.
And it will not be a day later. It may be 5 or 6 o'clock, but I'm going to call you back and look on the website and see some of the great things we're doing. One of the things that we started this year was our 220 Heroes Untold Stories. And I just love that. So one of my ambassadors had made a suggestion about letting, our mission clients tell their stories and turn it into a song. And I'm going, you don't want me doing that. I know my limitations. And so basically I said that, I'll be able to filter that, but don't ask me to help. And so I prayed about it and in January this year we started 220 Heroes Untold Stories, and I know Ash and Chris are part of that as well. Mm-hmm. So we've got several that are telling those stories and going to turn it into a song, and it's all that's on the website.
Yes, you guys definitely need to go to 220.org and check it out. And I am absolutely honored. I speak for Chris as well, my husband. I mean, we're just honored and thrilled to be a part of it. We've gotten to hear some incredible stories and help put that into song. And, I think though I laugh so hard when you're talking about, you don't want me putting that in a song or, whatever. But, I think this is why community matters though. And having a team of support, I could never go to a place like DC or any of these places that you do, Dr. Arnell. I can never do what you do, but I could totally grab a guitar and I can write a song, no problem, but us working together, we're able to help get the message out, or help, healing heroes and telling their stories. And I mean, that's why you just can't do it alone, right? It's all team effort. It's all a community.
It's all a community. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, you guys, please go to 220.org. Check it out. It's just such a great organization. So many amazing things that they're doing. You will love it. And thank you guys for listening to this podcast episode. I hope that you have enjoyed it as much as I have. I hope that this kind of brings some awareness maybe to some things that I think should be talked about maybe a bit more. So again, go to 220.org. Check it out. Dr. Arnell, thank you for taking the time today to tell your story, to just share with us. This has just been amazing. You guys be sure to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let us know if anything that we've talked about today you really resonate with, or if you have any additional questions, just drop them down below. But thank you for being here and for listening today. We so appreciate it. But we will see you guys further on down the road for another episode. God bless everybody. Bye.